I prepared a little presentation, a little PowerPoint that I'd like to share with you. I'm not going to play the school teacher tonight because I know we all had a working day today, and I think in the first place we want to relax a bit, or we want to have a good time together. But still, it may help me to get some stories and make a fun evening. Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. A host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Let me see about sharing screen. Okay. I think you can share. Try now.
Yep, no, it's fine.
Okay. Bert, can you tell us about the name of Aster Moriss? What significance does it hold? Why did you call the company Aster Moriss?
Why did I call the company Aster Moriss? Well, in fact, to be completely honest with you guys, when I started Aster Moriss, it was just, I just wanted to have something funny. And wait, just 1 second, I'm a bit in trouble here. I just want something funny. And the morning I had been reading a comic book where on a place that maybe many people read comic books in the morning. And that day I was going to found my company for invoicing my tastings and invoicing my articles. And I had read in that comic book a name about a company called Aster Moriss, but that company book, that comic book is well known for always playing with words and always making things that have double meanings and always doing such little playthings with words. And Aster Moriss in Dutch means if it's only that, if it's just that, or is that all? Something like that. But I found it sounded well. And afterwards, if I would start over, I would never, ever call it Aster Moriss again, because then it was kind of a joke. And the lady asked me, how would you like to call your company? And I said, oh, take Aster Moriss, because I have been reading about it in the morning. And I found it, I thought the sound was funny of it. But now, I mean, it has one advantage as well. You can pronounce it in many languages without making a complete fool of yourself, because sometimes if you hear mainly French guys pronouncing names, it sometimes gets funny. So Aster Moriss, you can say it in many languages without making a fool of yourself, but now it would be too expensive or too difficult to change it, because now many people know it and many people know the name. So now I've been bringing myself into trouble. Is that a reply to the question?
Okay, cool. It sounds quite nice, actually, if you don't know the meaning of it. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, it's and then Aster Moriss is the drums for obvious reasons. And then I've recently bought an Armagnac, of which Yves has also ordered bottles for Israel, and that's called Aster Morice. So in French, M-A-U-R-I-C-E. So I can maybe take the bottle just 1 second. This is the 45 years old Armagnac. So this is also a funny, a nice project which brings me fun. So that's the whole point about Aster Moriss. It's all about having fun and enjoying life and enjoying myself, because I never go to work, guys, because it's always doing things I like and things with people I like, so I never go to work. I have prepared a little presentation. As I told you, it's not too complicated. The first whiskey we're going to taste tonight is a Macduff, 8 years old. So it's 58%, distilled 2012, bottled 2020, cask number AM020. So sometimes people ask me, why are your, how does it come that your customers, sometimes we have 150, then we have 20, then we have 70, then we have, the cask numbers get their number when they get in. So every cask that comes in gets a number. And this one was in for quite a while already, because it's one of the very first ones. And Macduff was a distillery founded in 1960, sold to Bacardi in 1993, uses concerto barley variety, which brings 410 to 415 liters per ton yield. So this means you get 410 liters of pure alcohol out of 1 ton of barley. To compare, the older one, the Golden Promise barley, which many people may know, the Golden Promise barley, which they used in the 60s and the 70s, brought 385 liters per ton. And now Concerto is a popular one. We had Optic before. Concerto is a popular one now. It brings 410 to 415. And there's a new one now they're using, but the name I don't know the name by heart anymore. That's that brings 420 to 425. So you have to know, in Scotland it's mainly all about the yields and all about the things they bring. So to produce, the more the better, because Macduff is mainly used in, I forgot which blend it was. They have a fermentation time of 55 hours in 9 stainless steel washbacks. So you have wooden washbacks and stainless steel washbacks. And many times you hear people talking very romantically about the wooden washbacks and taste would be better, but in the end it's all about hygiene. So the stainless steel washbacks can be cleaned much easier and much more effective than the wooden ones. So the risk of getting bad whiskey in stainless steel washback is much more than having a wooden washback, where infections can come in easier. I don't say many times, but it happens. You have them. They have a very unusual setup of the stills. So they have 2 wash stills and 3 spirit stills. The official bottlings of Macduff are called the Deveron, but I'll show you a picture later on. What I still wanted to say about fermentation, they have 55 hours. And for me, that's one of the main reasons that whiskey is getting more and more all similar. So if you're fermentating that quickly, then your alcohol production is getting very sterile. Is that an English word? So there's very few acids that can connect to the alcohol molecules for getting to more esters in your alcohol. So the faster it goes, the more effective it goes, and the lesser you can have off notes in your whiskey, but also the lesser you can have the really good ones. Because people sometimes say whiskey in the 60s was better. That's not completely true. Whiskey in the 60s could be better, because in the 60s they didn't control their process as good as they do now. So in the 60s they have indeed made quite some whiskey which is better than what you have now, but they made much more whiskey which was absolute and utter crap in the 60s, because again they didn't control their process as they're doing today. This is Macduff Distillery. So it's not very, very normal or very, very modern or very, very fancy or posh. This is, in fact, a factory only to make mainly whiskey for blended whiskies. And that's what I'm trying to do with Asda Morris many times, because I'm trying to look for whiskey that's called typical blenders whiskey. Because 1, you can still find casks of those, so they're still available. 2, they are often reasonably priced, but also it's getting more and more difficult. And 3, it's possible to surprise people with these kind of whiskies, because Macduff, I don't think there's many people having tasted 5 or 10 different expressions of Macduff. So if you're giving people a Clynelish or an Ardbeg or a Glenmorangie or a Glenfiddich or Glenlivet or Macallan, people know exactly what they have to expect. And then people go search about things then people go searching after things they don't like in it. I say, oh, it's a Glenfarclas, but it has this, but it has that, but it has that. But then if you give people, for example, a Macduff, then people don't know it. And then people go more looking for positive things or good things in the whiskey. And then they go searching for things they like or things they prefer themselves in whiskeys. If you see the stills here, the line arms, this is very typical. This is something you don't see too often. Is there anybody who would know why they have done this at Macduff this way? I mean, there's 4 of the 5 being like this.
I was actually wondering about the shape of the wash stills because it's really quite different than we used to see.
It's atypical indeed. It's atypical.
Maybe they had to cut it, to cut the line arm and the top of the still to fit it into the still room or something like that.
Exactly. If you see here, this is almost parallel. So indeed, they had to cut it to be able to bring it in.
I've never seen any still that looks like this. And,
well, at Old Pulteney, for example, they have one still which is flat here, and then goes out like this, so completely flat. And for the same reason, they brought it in, and then all of a sudden they saw, oops, it doesn't fit. So then they had to literally take a saw, proof, and take off a bit, and weld a flat thing on it above, and only that way they could put it in. So this is the same thing here. So you see, they have to put it like that, exactly as you say, to be able to bring it in, because indeed it's almost parallel here.
The 2 stills are the same. The 2 wash stills are the same. They have the
4 of the 5 are like this, and one not.
Oh, okay, all right.
So 4 of the 5 have this shape, and one has not. But I don't know which one exactly, because to be honest, I've never been to Macduff.
The condenser also looks quite long.
Yeah. I don't think that has much difference with many other ones. You're talking this here. Yeah.
Usually shorter, I think, but can't really say.
No, every distillery has its own types of condensers or its own specialties of condensers, but I haven't seen them also. So this is the warehouse at Macduff. And as I told you, this is the Deveron, 10 years, 12 years old. And also they have 23 years old.
רני, תשתיקו אצלכם, רני.
Could Nikolai mute himself, please? Taste-wise, how do you like the Macduff? Have you been tasting it already so far?
Sniffing and tasting, so sniffing first.
Sorry?
I guess everyone just try and have some sniff and a taste.
Or nosing, and indeed nosing, because nosing is much more important than tasting, because I believe our nose is 50 times more sensitive than our taste buds. So our nose is much more sensitive, so we can perceive many more aromas with the nose than with the mouth.
An amazing tropical.
Yeah, very fruity.
He's
So
got
Bert,
some
can you tell
butter
us regarding your bottling, how do you decide which distilleries you want to bottle? Is it just a decision of yourself, or you're like limited by what is currently available and you say, okay, I will take this one?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both, because I work on 3 different types of whiskey. First of all, there's things which I buy which are immediately bottle ready. For example, the Glentochers I bought and was immediately ready for bottling, and that's the most easy ones. So you can pick them and they're ready right away. Other ones, I buy them, put them to other casks and let them there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then there's other ones I buy of which I know that's going to take 10, 15, 20 years. But to be honest, I never look at distillery names. I'm not really anxiously looking for this or that name. I buy casks sometimes per 1, sometimes per 2, sometimes per 10, sometimes per 20. And then if it comes in, then they get tasted, and then I decide what to do with every particular cask. So every cask gets treated separately, and every cask, I taste them all, and they all get their own destination or their own further ways. But I never look for typical I never look for particular names or particular distilleries or whatever. It's whiskey that counts.
So when you're picking a cask, you're not saying, okay, this distillery might be more popular, so it will be easier to tell people, okay, to get them interested, versus some distillery which is not as sexy, so it might be more difficult to sell the same whiskey. Or
well, to be honest, that's one of the reasons I never ever bottle a Kleinlich, because everybody wants Kleinlich, everybody does Kleinlich, and apparently everybody likes Kleinlich, and that's the reason I don't want to do one, because there's that many Kleinliches around. People will take yours and say, oh, what's not good? Oh, and right away start criticizing it. Because I do like the bottle Craigellachie, Stratmill, Macduff, Vetterkern, Glentochers, Glenbergie, all the lesser known ones. Ben Rinnes, there's many ones.
Listen, get Kleinlich, so we'll buy it. Don't worry. We're gonna buy your Kleinlich, so you just bottle it.
I know, I haven't got one. I haven't got one.
But the Kalila is also like a very popular independent bottling. A Kalila,
well, you know the main reason why Kalila is a very popular independent bottling.
Yes,
do you know the main reason why Kalila is a very popular independent whiskey? The main
I think I know it, but you
it's more difficult to find a bad cask at Kalila than to find a good one. Every Kalila is good. Kalila, I don't think I tasted two bad Kalilas in my whole life, and I tasted probably 200.
Yeah, probably right.
But Kalila is always good. It's good, very good, or very good. But the bad Kalila, never came across one, or 1-2 times.
I have to agree.
Kalila is always good. It's a very thankful whiskey. So once I jokingly I don't know what you would have to do to excuse me my expression, to fuck up a Kalila. I don't know what you would need to do. Maybe put it on a Tokai cask. Maybe that can ruin it. Tokai cask. That's the type of cask I think that should be forbidden by law.
It worked for Longrow.
Sorry?
It was okay for Glenmorangie as well. It was not that bad.
You think so? I didn't taste it. I don't know it. But I think Tokai is much too dominant. Nice. It's much too dominant to be used for whiskey. And for me,
sweet.
It's very sweet. It's very dominant. And if I really would like that taste, I'm going to buy a bottle of Tokai wine at 10 euros instead of a bottle of Tokai whiskey at 50 euros or at 70 euros. Okay, how do you like the Macduff, guys? What are the comments on the Macduff?
It's got some butter and brown sugar taste in the aftertaste. It's very nice, very like a caramel cookie or something like that.
No, to be honest, I like it a lot as well. I'm doing wrong things here. Oh, there we go. I was clicking my mouse without having to. Any other comments on the Macduff?
Tastes like banana ice cream.
Banana ice cream, that's a nice tasting note.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, that's a cask I had quite a long time. Sorry?
No, I think that with time it gets better. When I poured it first, then it was a bit harsh, but given it a few minutes, we'll make it much sweeter and much nicer.
Well, that's something which is important. You very often you have to let the whiskey breathe a bit, because sometimes whiskey needs some airing before really giving all of its aromas and all of its flavors. And I think sometimes if they put you in a cask for many years and then they take you out of the cask and put you in a bottle for many years, you also might need some breathing before being the perfect guy you want to be if they take you out of the bottle, no?
Yeah, of course.
But that was a sherry butt, which I have been taken off the sherry butt and putting to 2 refill bourbon barrels. So sometimes I think the sherry had enough influence on the whiskey, and then I take it off and put it back to refill bourbon, because then it only gets rounder and more deep and more layers without getting more signature. Sometimes I think whiskey has enough signature, and I hate myself over-sherried whiskey. It's the same reason I don't like Tokai casks. I don't like if the cask dominates. For me, a finishing cask needs to add to the whiskey and needs to give something to the whiskey, but may not put his foot on it and may not dominate it. Because if it's dominating, then you're losing the sense, you're losing the meaning of why you have been finishing. Finishing is just adding a little pinch of something. It's not dominating. Now the good news is, if you take the following ones, I have the bottles here with me. I can taste with you guys, but this one I had to come in blindly. Can we go to the next one?
Sure, we can.
Let's go.
Before you go to that one, I just have one question regarding the ABV. Bert,
shoot.
I noticed that all these bottles have a very distinct ABV, meaning it is not natural ABV, because like 58, so it cannot be 58.0. So,
it's 58, but it came from much more. It came from 64, 65, I think.
Yeah. So my question is, how do you decide which alcohol to dilute it?
Well, that's an interesting question, because you'll see some of the whiskeys are cask strength, like Colila and Glentochus are cask strength, but the other ones have been slightly diluted. Why? Every Aston Morris bottling gets bottled at the drinking strength, which is my personal favorite for that whiskey. So all the samples I'm selecting for bottling, I all dilute them from cask strength to 1 degree less, 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 until 46. So this Macduff has been tasted at 63, 62, 61, 60, 59, 58, 57, 50, 56, 55, 54. And because Aston Morris, that's my little baby. So all those whiskeys, I want them to be in the bottle the way I would prefer them to drink. And sometimes that's 52%, sometimes 58, sometimes 54, and sometimes just cask strength. And it's only decided on my palate with my nose. So it's a personal preference, that's all. It has nothing to do with getting more bottles or forgetting, because some companies bottle everything at 50 or everything at 46. But I want to go one step beyond and just take whatever is for me the best drinking strength.
Well, tasting at 1% increment sounds like a very, very difficult workday.
Well, I'm going to give you a little example. The Benriach 1975, the cask 7227, the one which was my very first cask. That one got tasted also, the cask sample was at 56%. I tasted it at 54, 52, 50, 48, and 46. And then I decided, so I had the glasses in front of me, and I decided that it was or 52 or 50. And then I put those two together. So it was the same amounts, put them together. So technically I was coming to 51%. And I said, okay, yep, that's better. And so I was bottled at 51%. But those differences of only 1%, it's not huge difference, it's just like this. But that's being a malt maniac, I think. That's being a maniac. That's being a maniac.
Funny.
If that replies the question.
Absolutely replies to the question.
Okay. Next is Benriach. As many people may know, I used to be quite a big Benriach collector. I was the biggest Benriach collector of the world in 2009, I think. 8 or 9, 2008, I think. And then all of a sudden I got an email from the second biggest Benriach collector in the world, which was Magnus Fagerström from Sweden, which people may also know. And he emailed me, he wanted to buy 3 bottles of my Benriach collection. I said, Magnus, come on, if I sell you those 3, then 1, my collection is not complete anymore, and 2, I have to restart looking for those bottles and I won't find them again. I said, if I sell, it's all or nothing. And 3 months later, he came to my house from Sweden with the car and was loading all of my bottles of Ben Riach in his trunk and left with them. So I sold that collection to Magnus, but he was angry with me because I didn't want to sell him the doubles. I drank all those because all of the good ones I had 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 24 bottles of the same whiskey. And Ben Riach is a whiskey which probably my favorite distillery in Scotland, even Ben Riach. And that comes, I met Billy Walker, who was then the owner of Ben Riach. I met him in 2004 at Whiskey Life Paris. So he had just taken over Ben Riach when I met him. And he made me taste a cask sample of a 20-year-old Authenticus, a 21-year-old Authenticus, which was a 21-year-old peated whiskey distilled at Ben Riach. And the cask sample was also at 56 or 54%, and I immediately loved it. I told Billy, I said, Billy, how are you going to bottle that? And he said, I'm going to dilute it to 46%. And I said, please don't, because you're going to kill it at 46. And then Billy said, no, I'm not going to kill it. You know what? Take this cask sample at home, you taste it, and if the bottle comes out, then you also buy a bottle of the 21-year-old Authenticus, and you contact me with with how you like it, with your opinion. And he gave me his business card. And effectively, the 46% 21-year-old Authenticus was better than my cask sample at 56%. And that was for me the start of a big friendship with Billy Walker. So every time when he came to Belgium for hosting tastings or for masterclasses or stuff, I picked him up at the airport, drove him around, drove him back to the hotel, drove him back to the airport. And we've been in the car together for many, many, many hours and talking for many, many, many hours. And still, I mean, he had taken over Glenallachie. I knew it 2 days before the press knew it. So I'm still very close with Billy Walker. And that was also the reason he allowed me to bottle those casks of 1975 Ben Riach, and 1978, and 77, and 79, and 83. So Ben Riach was distillery founded in 1898. It was reclosed again in 1900 due to the Patterson crisis. So the Pattersons were 2 brothers who had a blending company in, I think, Edinburgh. And they were the first guys to use marketing and advertising on panels along the road. So everywhere along the road and in the streets, there's panels of the Patterson whiskey, and those guys became huge. So the blend became huge. And they had many, many, many distilleries working for them. And as a consequence, many new ones were built at the end of the 19th century. So 1895 to 1900, many distilleries got built. But the Pattersons have been greedy, and they had a very extravagant lifestyle and a very expensive lifestyle and horse races and you know, all the stuff. And all of a sudden they needed more and more and more money. And then they started frauding in their company with valuating stocks. So they were valuating stocks twice, and they were all doing accountancy tricks for making their stocks artificially higher. And all of a sudden they got caught in the act, and it led to the bankruptcy of the company. So that also led to a big, big, big crisis in the whiskey world, and many distilleries had to close, like also Ben Riach. So Ben Riach reopened only in 1965 to remain open till now. They had been closed a bit around 2006 to 2007, I think. No, before. They were closed a bit in the early 2000s. I don't know when exactly, 2 years. And then they were taken over by Billy Walker in 2014. 2004, sorry, that's an error in my presentation. Taken over by Billy Walker in 2004, to be taken over by Brown Forman, which also owns Jack Daniels, in 2016. I have Nigel Robinson talking to me. He said the Americans who take over, they are very Catholic and very Puritans. And they didn't want, so if you know people from Scotland, they swear a lot and they use quite some heavy words in their language. And the first guys, so the guys from Brown-Forman said, yeah, they wanted less swearing in the company because it didn't correspond to the American way of working, and they didn't want the swearing anymore, and they wanted to have polite language. And Nigel answered, fuck no, he said. So that was his answer already. And then after they told it in the offices, they had to go down to the bottling plant and tell it there to the workers and the bottling plant, the same message. So I don't think that was taken very well. So Benriach produces 2.8 million liters per year of pure alcohol, both peated and unpeated. That's also something like that. Now, I recently had an online tasting with guys from Benriach, and I have the impression they get more and more marketing driven, because now they call it the unpeated. They call it unpeated, and the peated they call it traditional. I say, how do you call it the traditional? Oh, they said that's how whiskey was made before, and in the older days they only made peated Benriach because this and because that. I said, guys, Benriach only makes peated whiskey starting from 1972. And then they didn't like that answer of mine. So the true reason that Benriach makes peated and unpeated whiskey is very simple. Benriach was owned by Chivas Regal, the very well-known, famous blended whiskey. And Chivas needed some peated whiskey to put in their blend, but they didn't have any island distilleries or any island distilleries. So they have been doing tests in 3 distilleries. Longmore was one of them, Benriach was the other one, and the third I have forgotten, for making peated whiskey for Chivas. And Benriach succeeded the best in doing so. So the only reason Benriach historically started making peated whiskey was to deliver peated whiskey to Chivas to put in the blends. So please, if any marketing guy from Benriach or from Brown-Forman tells you about the traditional peated, please tell him the story. Because he just have to, the only thing he'll say, yeah, you're probably right, sir. That's all he's going to say. This is Benriach. This is the distillery. This is the Authenticus. This is the reason I got friends with Billy Walker. These are the warehouses, which I know quite well. Other picture of the warehouses. And this is the malt floor. Since 2 or 3 years, Benriach is malting a little part of the malt they want, again, on site. Has been, the malting floors have been silent for many years, but Billy Walker, ever since he took over in 2004, that's one of the first things he wanted, to have his own maltings back. I believe they're active again since 2016 or 17, but I don't know that exactly by heart, so don't take me on that one. This Benriach is distilled on April 10th, 2008. And has been put to the ex-Rasta Morris 4-square rum cask on February the 25th of 2019. So this has been for almost 1 year on a rum cask. Again, rum finishes can be good, but can also ruin the whiskey if you leave them in the cask for too long. And I have learned that a sherry finish can take much longer than a rum finish, because a rum, I never did a rum finish longer than 8 months, I think, for this reason. If you take the nose here, get raisins, you get here, some figs, sweeter notes, light fruitiness, some vanilla. So this one is bottled at 52%. Again, it's always, the truth is always somewhere between 49 and 52. That's mostly the right ABV for me to bottle. Sometimes a bit more, but never much less. I believe there was only one which was done at 46. Also, Aston Morris never ever chill filters. because I want the oils and the fats to remain in. That you have a mouthfeel, that your mouth gets covered with some cream, and also the oils and the fats give you many of the aromas and the flavors. So chill filtration is mainly done because if a whiskey gets stored on a cold place, it can turn cloudy. And many consumers don't know exact meanings, and they don't like whiskey to be cloudy. So that's why the big boys started to chill filter. That's chilling the whiskey to a temperature around zero, around the freezing, and then put it to a big filter to keep all the particles and all the, so the oils get solid at these cold temperatures, and then they stick in the filter and they get taken out. So basically what you take away is what you're paying for. What you take away is the flavors and the aromas of the whiskey. How do you like this one, guys, on the nose? Any comments or anything you can add or anything you can?
No, I think the nose is fantastic, Bert.
I like it a lot personally.
I think that after the Macduff, it's much more kicker.
Much more?
Much more kicker. Yeah. In the nose and the flavor on the in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. You have many casks behind you.
Few drops into it of water makes a big difference.
And the Ben Riach or Macduff?
The Ben Riach.
Okay. Well, that's also something.
I really like it. It was really, really interesting. I tried one of the special Ben Riach, if I remember, it was official bottling, 1978 dark rum that they released.
Yeah.
And I never tried something like this, and this just give me a little glimpse because of the rum cask.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I have a really weird question. I know that already that the rum cask was a 4 square, but it was like a young cask or it was an old cask?
It was a 4 square 2005.
Thank you very much.
4 square 2005, bottled in 2018, I think. Bottled 2018 because this one went on 25 February of 2019. So the rum cask was bottled late 2018, I would say.
It's nice, really. It's like I didn't have the water and I've been really enjoyed from it. Really like this distillery. Really good.
Sorry?
תתקרב למיקרופון, לא כל כך שומעים אותך.
I'm sorry because I'm literally far from. I said I really like it because for a 10 years old from one bottling, it's really amazing and really not all like the same I tried from other bottlers.
Yeah.
And I said it was really interesting because I didn't need water to enjoy it and it was like perfectly well balanced and really like this bottle. It was really good and I think I will probably get one. Really.
Well, thank you very much. But then also, it's also important, the rum casks I'm using, rum can be dangerous in the way that rum can be sweetened, or rum can be treated, or rum can be whatever. The rum casks I'm using, I always know what rum has been on it because it's my own cask from Mouri's. So I'm very sure that I always use good rum casks. Because you can, if some people just buy rum casks to put something on, and they don't know the exact history of the cask, or they don't know the exact origins of the cask. For us, it's always clear. I know perfectly where they come from and what has been on it before. That's also, that's important. In the mouth, this is quite oily. So if you're going with your tongue around your mouth, you can feel it's covered with some fats or with some oil. It's creamy in the mouth, and that's something which is important for me. That's something I really like myself. If a whiskey feels dry in the mouth, that's not what I like, what I personally like. And as an independent bottler, the good thing is you can do only the things you like. So that's one of the good things of life. Here I have less this
also important.
Sorry?
Also important, Bert, is to keep the authenticity of the Ben Riach itself. You know, you have to keep the personality of the
exactly.
And this we feel very well here in this dram.
I think this is a succeeded one. think that there also was a Benriach on a Trinidad cask, but I don't think you had that one, Yves. Is it possible?
Only the 4-square one this time.
Yeah, but the 4-square one was the best one. Any other comments on this Benriach?
I found it a bit rummy. Actually, not in a bad way. I actually like rum, so for me it was very nice. The nose is nice, but the palate for me is nicer.
So rummy in a good way then.
Yeah, for me it is a good way. If people are not really rum drinkers, or they are not really fond of rum, they might have some difficulties with it. But if you are a rum lover, then you're in for a good time.
Well, problem was I wasn't a rum lover as well until I came across one very good one, and then that one got me hooked. And see what happened now. So, but Benriach for me remains one of my big favorites in the whiskey world. So this cask, I just told you this is distilled on April 10th of 2008. Why do I know that date so well by heart? That's very simple. My daughter was born on April 10th, 2011. So this whiskey became whiskey on the day she was born. So whiskey needs to be 3 years old before it gets whiskey. So 9, 10, 11. This one was 3 years old on the day my daughter was born.
So we share the birthday, Bert.
Sorry?
Me and your daughter. Me and your daughter share the same birthday, 10th of April.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you have the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, dangerous. No, but she has one butt of Benriach 2008 of the same batch, which is in Scotland on her name. So that's her cask. And my son was born October 6th of 2012, and he has a cask of Tanninic, which was distilled September 30th of 2009. So that one got whiskey 1 week before he was born. So they each have got their cask of whiskey in Scotland, my children. And I think if they get 18 years old and they're going to tell me, "Oh, Daddy, we would like to have a car," I think I'll say, "Hey guys, your car is in Scotland, so you both have a cask of whiskey. You can get it bottled. You can make labels. You can put labels on. And then you can go and sell it. And with the turnover you make, I'm going to buy you guys a car." That's what I'm planning to do. Then we go to the Ardmore. Eve and I had a little discussion about the order of the tasting tonight. I think you guys wanted to have now the Glentochers, then Ardmore, and then Colilla. I said to Eve, don't. We first need 2 Peters, and then after that we're going to take the Glentochers. And Eve said, "No, but why? You won't taste them after peated whiskey." Well, that's something I want people to step off of the idea that you don't taste whiskey anymore after peated whiskey. Because in the end, complexity always wins. And I would propose we try today first the Ardmore, then the Colilla, and then the Glentochers. And then at the end of the tasting, you guys tell me if it was yes or no a good idea. But my experience is that complexity always wins. We have learned that in 2007. Luc Timmermans, myself, and a friend of mine, and Paul de Jong, who was still Malt Maniac, the last Belgian Malt Maniac. One evening we were discussing together, and we were talking about Arbeck and Bowmore, and it appeared we had the 6 best Arbecks and the 6 best Bowmores ever. The 4 of us together, we had them all open. And then we decided to organize a tasting. I'm talking 2007, guys, so that's 13 years ago. That was before whiskey was expensive. And we decided to have a tasting of those 6 best Bowmores next to the 6 best Arbecks. And Bowmore, we had the Bowmore Black first edition. We had the Bowmore Fino 1964. We had Bowmore Bouquet 1966. We had Bowmore Sofiantino 1964. We had Bowmore 30th anniversary 1963. And there's one I'm forgetting. And we decided to put the Bowmores first and the Arbecs after. And we taste those Bowmores. It was huge. The tasting was enormous. It was so complex and such beautiful and fruity and elegant whiskeys. And there the Fino 1964 came out the best because the tasting was blind out of blue glasses that we didn't even see the color. And in a blind tasting, the Fino came out best. And then after that came the 6 best Arbecs. There was the Signatory Dark Oloroso 67, Signatory Pale Oloroso 67, Provenance Asia, Provenance Europe, 1974 Samaroli 57%, and forgetting one. And those Arbecs, it was great whiskey, but it was 6 times the same. So 6 times it was almost exactly the same. And then we said, hey guys, we should have taken the Arbecs first and the Bowmores after, because the complexity of the Bowmores would have beaten the Arbecs anyway. And that evening, since that evening, I always put the most complex whiskey at the end of the tasting. So I'm having to tell you a whole story for arriving at the reason why I would like to taste you the Glentochers after the 2 Peters. Ardmore, 10 years old. Ardmore is also one of the Patterson distilleries, Patterson Christ distilleries, founded in 1898 by Adam Teacher. And Adam Teacher passed away before the distillery was even finished. Nice thing is that today Ardmore is still the signature malt in the Teacher's blend. So I think it's very nice that that heritage keeps being cultivated. So they have 4 pairs of stills, 4 wash stills and 4 spirit stills. And Ardmore makes 5.5 millions of liters of pure alcohol per year. Ardmore was indeed only making whiskey for blended whiskeys until 2007, when they came out with an Ardmore traditional cask. Ardmore hasn't got a very high peat level. They have only 15 ppm, which corresponds with, so 15 ppm means 15 parts per million. So if you have 1 million molecules, there'll be 15 phenol ones, which make the whiskey peated. So you can compare 15 ppm with what Bruichladdich has, for example. Bruichladdich also has 15 ppm. Which is also interesting is that Ardmore only abandoned direct heating with coal fire in 2002. And with that, I think they were the last one who stopped with direct heating of the stills. And then they went also to gas, to gas coils below the stills. The gas makes it easier to control, because if you have a coal fire, if it starts burning harder and harder, you can't take it off very quickly. And then you can have some troubles in your still, that your pot ale gets burning. So you're baking basically bread in your still then. While with gas, you have the buttons on the still and you can put it hotter or colder any way you want it.
There are still actually 3 distilleries that use direct heating with the.
There's Yoichi.
Yeah, that's Springbank,
Springbank not.
And Springbank, Glenfarclas, and Glenfiddich use.
Glenfiddich?
They have some at Springbank. They have this fire. You can see a little window under the still.
Okay. Well, I know for a fact Yoichi is the last in Japan being direct heated. Glenfiddich, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Glenfarclas, they stopped direct heating several years ago and then went back to direct heating because they said that.
But Glenfarclas, as you say, Glenfarclas has been putting direct heating away, has been putting gas coils under the stills, have concluded the result wasn't what they wanted, and then they have put the coke back below the stills. Exactly what you're saying. So Glenfarclas is very unique in that. And for your information, the very first one who was putting, anybody knows who the very first one was to be working with gas-fired stills? In the 60s, in 1969, I believe. Was Glenn Keith. Glenn Keith was the very first one to use gas-fired stills.
אגב, למי שידולה, just one minute, I'll be speaking Hebrew. אנחנו כרגע תואמים את הסאמפל מספר 4, לא את 3, שימו לב. Just said that we're now tasting number 4, not number 3, so people don't get...
Exactly, number 3 comes at the end.
Yeah.
Bert, we have also the new Japanese distillery Shizuoka, who's making, who has direct fire, isn't it?
Yeah, but Shizuoka doesn't work with coal, but Shizuoka has direct wood fire under one of their wash stills. So Shizuoka has one wash still which comes from the Karuizawa distillery, which is not the wood-fired one. So they have one wash still from Karuizawa, and then they have one still which has indeed direct wood fire below. And that's something completely unique. I don't know anybody in the whiskey industry who works with direct wood fire under the stills. People interested, if you see my Instagram, Aster Moriss, so Aster_Moriss, there you can see a film of the guy of the stillman lighting the fire under the wood fire still. Has to be somewhere in there. But Shizuoka is something unique, and what they make, I think it's very, very, very promising, and they're going to make great stuff.
I have one question, Bert, regarding, you mentioned that back then whiskey was a lot cheaper, and it's right. How would you say that, you know, whiskey prices are on the rise, and how from the independent bottlers, harder is it getting good casks at these atmospheres, or like casks that are
Could you just
good
repeat,
and not
because
very
in the
expensive?
middle you've been falling away, but in the middle we had a bad connection. Could
Okay,
you just
okay.
repeat?
So yeah, so from the independent bottlers' view, how much more, how much harder is it getting quality casks these years as opposed to in previous years, when whiskey prices are on the rise and casks are also costing more and more and not as easy to get hold of?
It's getting more and more difficult to get good casks, as you say, but as I told you, much of the stock I'm having is there for many years already. So if
you mentioned that the 24-year-old you just bought and bottled, so
sorry,
you mentioned that the 24 years we're about to taste, you bought and then it was immediately ready for bottling.
This one was ready, yeah.
Yes.
But it's getting more and more difficult of buying casks, and sometimes you have to buy many young ones to be able to buy some old ones as well. And many people don't do that, but then I have the position I can buy some young ones, put them in other casks, let them in the warehouse, and use the older ones for bottling right away. But it doesn't get more easier finding the good casks.
Okay.
It doesn't get more easy, and sometimes prices are going crazy. I mean, recently I got an email of a new broker, so there's getting more and more new brokers now, and those guys send emails with casks and with prices. And recently I've been replying to one that I was wanting to sell him my whole stock to the prices he was asking me for the casks. I said I'm selling everything I have to those prices, and I didn't hear him back anymore, so I don't think he will agree. But people are it's getting sometimes a bit too much. I mean, we always have seen whiskey as a drinking thing, something to drink and to enjoy. But ever since people start seeing whiskey as an investment, it hasn't been good for the world of the whiskey lovers, I think. That has made things more and more expensive, and that's making it hard for the true whiskey lovers like us people. If that replies the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So the Armor abandoned direct heating only in 2002. Here you see Armor distillery in the old days, with a railroad next to it to deliver maybe the malt or take away the casks. This is Armor today. You see W. Teachers and Sons still on the wall. Wooden washbacks. This is this first Armor single malt that came out. It only came out very late. The first Armor single malt only came out very late because in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, peated whiskey was only for blending. People didn't drink peated whiskey because they didn't like it. In the 90s, still people didn't drink peated whiskey. It's only in the early 2000s that the peated whiskey became more and more popular. Sorry. And all of a sudden, Armor said, hey guys, we have all this peated whiskey here, we don't do anything with it, and maybe we can sell our production more expensive as a peated single malt than as blended whiskey. And that's why Armor also jumped on the wagon of the peated whiskies and has been making their volumes higher and higher in single malt, because single malt can be sold more expensively than blended whiskey. Here on the wall, you can still see W. Teachers and Sons. And on this picture, there's something I would like to tell you on the stills. You see, these stills are typically made for making peated whiskey. You see, the stills are plain, so there's no bulbs here or no bulbs lime glasses in. So everything goes very fast, and also the lime arm goes directly down, which makes, they reduce as much as possible the contact with the copper. So copper is a catalyst, and copper is filtering away many heavy particles out of your whiskey as well. But if you're using this type of still, your distillation goes quicker, and the lesser contact with the copper, the more robust and the more strong your spirit will be. So these stills are typically made for producing peated whiskey. For unpeated whiskey, as I told you, you have the bulbs that come out here, or the lime glass who gets in here, but most of all the line arm, which goes horizontal or maybe even goes up to enhance or to make more contact with the copper possible. Any comments on the Armor? So this one has been maturing on fresh bourbon wood. Armor, as I told you, is a typical blender's whiskey also. So that means Armor mainly gets matured on refill bourbon casks. So it gets a very pale color, you really get the distillery character, and you don't get too much cask influence. This fresh bourbon cask has been giving many citrusy notes, so oranges and mandarins. Also, it gives loads and loads of vanilla to it, which a refilled bourbon cask will give much less, and will give a color that has more gold than a refill one. So I must say, this one I really liked it on the fresh bourbon. I believe it was even me who put it on.
The nose is fantastic, I think.
I love the nose of this one.
Yeah. I remember the first time I tried it is when we had lunch together. Immediately fell in love with it. Yeah.
It's really nice, really smoky, a bit herbal as well.
Yeah.
But like burnt herbs. I also think that, like Colina, Armors are also quite nice usually. I've tasted quite a few, and I don't remember a really bad one as well. I think that the peaty, but local peat is very appealing.
Well, Armor is made with Speyside peat. Armor is not made with Isla peat. And that's the nice thing. The vegetation in the highlands is not the same as the vegetation on Isla. And that makes a distinctive different kind of peat. That makes a distinctive different composition of the peat. So you can clearly note that this is not an Islay whiskey. It's peaty, but it's not Islay. And that comes of the vegetation.
Grassier.
Sorry? You're lacking the
It is a little bit grassier.
Exactly. It's a bit more grassy and a little bit more mineral. And you don't get the maritime, you don't get those kind of aromas, which you have in the seaweed vegetation on Islay, as a matter of speaking. This is something I like, to be honest.
It's very
Just
nice
thinking
as well.
If I have more of these. I think there's one left.
I'm on my second bottle as well, Alberta, to say the truth.
You drink more than you sell. You have to be careful. You drink more than you sell.
That's my problem.
It's very easy drinking, you know.
My own best customer.
It's very Moorish. Okay, that's not bad.
Well, easy drinking, as you say, because in the end, whiskey is made to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
And easy drinking, this is also a kind of card player's whiskey. I will define card player's whiskey is a word that I have been inventing for whiskey. You imagine being with 4 friends playing cards with a bottle of this whiskey. Well, at the end of the evening, the bottle will be empty. That's card player's whiskey. It's drinking that easily. They will finish the bottle before even knowing it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. When you pour one dram, then you're not gonna, even if you're drinking alone, you're not going to pour only one. You want another one.
And again, this is very, very, very creamy in the mouth, and I love that. And still, it's 54%, so it's not a softie. But still, the alcohol is very well and very nicely integrated, and it's not attacking you or not dominating anything. Are there people who think this one needs water? Or did somebody add water?
Sometimes I add water, but tonight I'm not adding any water. And I've had I poured it 10 minutes before I started to drink. The nose is just there's such a beautiful perfume in it.
Well, I think that's a fresh bourbon cask that has been doing many good things to it.
I've actually put some water and was quite disappointed because it's got some like ashes on the, not pleasant ash taste on the palate.
Yeah.
This kind of ruined the whole experience. I loved it without water.
Well, that's sometimes the point. For me, they're bottled at the ideal drinking strength. So normally they don't need water. That's why I was asking, in fact, if it got better, yes or no, with the water. But normally they don't need water.
For us, it was better without.
Better without.
In my opinion, it's better, definitely better without.
Yeah. So you're confirming that my drinking strength is good then?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
Have you got one free glass now, guys?
Yes.
Could you fill the Kolila in the next glass so then we can taste both next to each other? Maybe we can taste both head to head then. I'm emptying my bottle of Kolila here.
Now we're up to number 5.
Sorry? Kalila. Kalila was founded in 1846, so quite an old distillery already. Today they make 6.5 million liters, but the total capacity of Kalila is 8 million liters. They have 8 wooden washbacks and 2 stainless steel ones, and they're mainly, there's a typo there, mainly producing peated component of Johnny Walker. So sometimes I have people talking me about the distillery character of Kalila. Although it's quite easy, to me, Kalila doesn't really have a distillery character. Why? Kalila makes whatever Johnny Walker is asking. So if Johnny Walker is asking for a very peated Kalila, they make very peated Kalila. If Johnny Walker is asking for unpeated Kalila, they make unpeated Kalila. But for me on Isla, the thing coming closest to Port Ellen is still Kalila. If you're tasting old Kalilas, sometimes it's difficult to find the difference between old Kalila or Port Ellens. Kalila also makes unpeated whiskey, and their cutting point is 63% then. What do I mean with that? If you're having your second distillation, it comes out at 70%. Then goes slowly. It can take 1 hour till what comes out has 69%, and goes quicker and quicker, which is also logical because in the beginning you have much alcohol in your still, but the longer you distill, the less is remaining. And if you're distilling, the first things you're distilling is the volatile alcohols, is the very estery alcohols, is the floral notes, is the fruity notes, those come first. And the ones coming last are the heavy ones, the phenolic ones, the smoky ones. So if you start distilling at 70%, 69%, 68%, you're all the time distilling your light alcohols, all the time distilling your estery alcohols. But the more you get down, the more heavy your spirit gets, and the more you get the phenolic and the heavy particles. And when you're cutting at 63, you don't even get the peat along, because also Ben Riach is cutting the unpeated one at 62, and the peated whiskey they only cut at 59 to be able to capture the peatiness. So from a peaty wash, it's perfectly possible to make unpeated whiskey only by cutting your second distillation higher. I mean, if you take it higher, you don't get the smokiness or you don't get the phenolic alcohols if you cut it higher. So if they would be cutting it at 59, then they would still get the smoky Kalila. But unpeated Kalila is getting cut at 63%. And their first single malt got bottled only in 2002 as well, which was then the Diageo series Fauna and Flora, which is quite famous or quite well known. So this is Kalila Distillery. Here you see the warehouses. But the funny thing is, in those warehouses, there is 0 casks of Kalila, nothing at all. Everything of Kalila gets loaded on boats and tankers and gets transported to Glasgow or around Glasgow. So all Kalila matures in the mainland of Scotland and not on the island. This is the still room of Kalila. If you're looking like this, and the picture left below, can anybody tell me what these two are?
These are the pops of Jura.
Exactly. So if you're in the still house of Kalila, you look right on the island of Jura. And that's, I think the view from there, it's magnificent. Especially if the Caledonian McBrain ferry is just passing. That's a great view if you're there. This is the Kalila Mauser. This is the guy responsible that there's no mice at Kalila Distillery. Anybody knows his name? This is Sushi. And Sushi is quite famous at Kalila Distillery. This is the mash tun where they get the sugar out of the barley. Mash tun view inside when they're running their first water. And these are the washbacks, so where they're adding the yeast for getting the first alcohol into the wash. So here, basically, they're making beer. Why am I hurrying a bit? Because I want to taste the Kalila, to be honest. Did anybody taste any of the Asta Mouris Kalilas before? I was very surprised this year to see we have won the Maltmaniac Awards globally.
I tasted, Bert, I tasted a bottle. I have a bottle of, I think, your Kalila from about either a year ago or 2 years ago. That's has a lot more sherry influence.
The 2011.
Which is fantastic. It's a fantastic bottle. And I'm not big, on sherry, sherry peated monsters, whatever. But it's fantastic. I'll bring it over in a second. I'll show it to you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Well, this is the third one that we have imported here. We had the 7-year-old, the first one. Then we had the 8-year-old, which won the awards of last year, and the one we're tasting now is the latest 7-year-old. So it's the third installment of Kalila that we are bringing from Asta Mouris.
Well, I was so surprised to see we had won the Maltmaniac Awards. I mean, with a bottle of only that price, we have been beating bottles who were costing hundreds of euros. And I've been a judge with the Maltmaniac Awards myself for 5 years. So now the circle is round, let's say, because it has been a dream of participating at the Maltmaniac Awards, but I never ever thought I was ever going to win them. It was a very nice surprise.
That's cool. Nice. Also, it's nice to know that the awards are being tasted blind, so I guess that people are really
exactly, they're tasted blind,
telling what they think about the whiskey without any prejudice.
Yep. Well, then you taste the whiskey, as you say, without prejudice. But once Ho Cheng Yao, the guy from Taiwan, has been entering his own Port-Ellen he bottled in the Maltmaniac Awards. And there were guys criticizing Ho Cheng about that to me. And they said, oh, it's not correct that Ho Cheng is judging his own whiskey and he's going to give good points. I had all the scores, so I took my score sheet next to him. I said, the guy, come here. I said, look, he gave his own whiskey 88 points. So he didn't recognize his own whiskey. So what are you
It's very hard to recognize. I think if I gave you some of your whiskey blind, then you will
It's
have a
so
hard time.
difficult. Tasting blind is the most difficult thing there is. And indeed, I don't think I would even recognize my own whiskey. So if I have to taste 250 whiskeys blind, I also don't think I would recognize my own whiskeys.
I think I've had 17 today for the blind tasting whiskey. So far 17 or something.
17 you had today.
17 points or 17 whiskeys?
But
you're talented.
No, I'm not. I'm actually quite bad.
HMO, great one.
Sorry?
So, Ali, which version do you have? We didn't see the label. Can you show the label?
The one I'm having, the same as you guys.
This one is
2019.
This one bottled cask AM 057. 05. Lots of more sherry influence.
Yeah.
לא רואים כלום, ניקו, אתה מזיז אותו מהר.
Nikolai, can you show me the label a bit closer, please?
No.
Yeah, that's the one with the chameleon or with the frog.
It's cask 057.
Yeah, well, 058 won the Maltmaniac Awards. His neighbor won the Maltmaniac Awards. This one was the one before, or the one after.
That's the second bottle of that one. I got 2 bottles of that one.
Well, enjoy. For me, honestly, for me personally, that was the best one, the one with the frog.
I loved it. I got 2. I think I tasted it. I can't even remember what was the situation. I tasted it and I got it from a Dutch retailer, I think, and I just got the first 2 bottles I could.
Yeah, from Passion for Whiskey, probably.
Probably from Stefan, yeah.
Yeah, Stefan, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, open it.
Because I don't think that one got to Israel even officially.
Well, Nico's opening this one. He can't wait.
Life is good. Are you guys sitting outside on a terrace there?
Here we
Yes, they are.
In Belgium, it's cold and rainy now. I'm jealous.
Yeah, we don't get cold and rainy here.
I would like to sit with you guys with a good cigar then on the terrace.
Well, you're more than welcome.
We're also on the terrace, Bert. We also sit on the terrace.
I noticed. I'm sitting inside because outside it's raining now.
Eve's terrace is nicer.
I wish it will rain in Israel.
Well, I promise you guys, if this Corona thing is over, I think Israel will be the first country I'll visit because I really, really, really want to come over.
We have a lot of stuff and a lot of places to show you. You should come as soon as possible.
But actually, you're not going to see anybody because we're all going to be abroad. So
we're all going to run away.
You're going to be traveling as well.
Yeah.
Let's make appointments then.
Yeah, we should make a date.
A really nice nose on this one. I really like it.
Okay.
But it's completely different than the Ardmore. It's two completely different things.
It's like more peppermint and sweet cherry here.
It's sweet cherry indeed because it's a Pedro Jimenez. It's a PX. And PX is remarkably sweeter than Oloroso, for example.
But it's also quite peppery in addition to the sweet notes.
Well, we're at 60.0% alcohol. But this one is cask strength at 60%. I think that may declare the pepperiness a bit.
So Bert, how many casks do you bottle per year? Do you have a statistic?
How many? It's on my side. I really don't know by heart. I think last year I had 12, 15.
Okay.
But for me, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And I don't need to bottle more or less casks. For me, it's in the first place enjoying myself and having fun in life.
Yeah, just asking, so we get an idea of how big your operation is, regardless of quality.
Let's say for collecting, it's easy to follow.
Yeah, it is. Do people collect? Do you have some people that are collecting?
I know two, three who collect.
Okay.
In Japan, there was a whiskey bar collecting them all. And he had everything that has been coming out in Japan. He had bottles. It was Malt Bar South Park in Tokyo. And I didn't know it. And all of a sudden, the Whiskey Festival in Tokyo in 2016, the guy comes to me and he didn't speak any English or so. And my importer had to translate. And then he said, I have all your bottles open in my bar and closed. And I said, okay, tonight I'm coming to your bar. Because if I come to Japan, my program is always full, because I want to do as many as possible in order to make it count if I go. But then I had planned a quiet evening because the day after I was going to fly back home. But in the end, I believe I was in his bar until 1 or 2 in the night. And I had to get up at 5 to get to the plane. But he was so grateful I went there. I've done later 2 tastings also in his bar. And then all of a sudden I heard he had a very aggressive cancer and he died 3 months after. So last time I saw him, I almost didn't recognize him because the disease had really taken on him, and he has died. So now the bar is closed as well. It's a pity. It's a place I really wanted to go, but just they didn't speak English very well. That was a pity. So I always had to make sure I had somebody who spoke Japanese to go with me, or I couldn't talk to them even. But yes, there is people collecting Aston Morris to answer the question.
Very nice.
I'm personally very partial to the Ardmore nose. I love it.
If I go back to the Ardmore, I get a bit more maltiness in it, which I didn't have the first time I tasted. So if I go from Colilla to the Ardmore gets more malty. It gets more. You can more smell the grains in it, which I didn't have. Sorry, which I didn't have the first time. And also even more vanilla.
Yeah, I'd agree about that. I also like the Ardmore more now than before.
So you like the Ard more than the Colilla?
No, I don't like it more than the Colilla, but I liked it less than after the Colilla.
So if you go back, it makes it better.
Yeah, by quite a few, I'd say.
Alex,
the Colilla is amazing.
Once you try black, you never go back.
It's very nice to, if you can hold both glasses, if you haven't finished your Ardmore and try the Colilla versus the Ardmore.
But that's why I thought it might be interesting to taste these two next to each other. It might make it interesting. Because also it's two completely different styles of peat. This is Isla peat, this is Highland peat. So it's completely different.
I love the smell of peat in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Indeed.
Well, now I have a punishment. I have to open a new bottle of Glentocher because my old one is empty. I still had a closed one at home. And if people ask me what's the kind of whiskey that I like most, well, this Old Speyside.
So where are you now? You're not at home?
Sorry?
You're not at home right now?
I'm in my office now.
Okay. I thought you were at home.
I'm in my office. My office is above my home. But my wife has a meeting downstairs and my children are sleeping in between. So the 3 floors of the house are occupied for the moment. I forgot to take water with me, so I'll have to rinse the glass with whiskey.
I hope you don't have a ghost in the attic there.
Sorry?
I hope you don't have ghosts there in the 3rd floor.
Oh.
Some old whiskey people looking for a new cask from you.
But there's no casks here, right? There's just open bottles. And there's more where they came from. Okay, Glentochers. We're going to taste the Glentochers, 24 years old, from 1996, bottled 2020, 49.7%. Glentochers was founded in 1897, again, one of the Paterson distilleries. You see, many distilleries have been founded around these times. So these are all built to be satisfying the need of the Patersons those days. Important is Glentochers is one of the Ballantine's malts. So Ballantine's is the 2nd largest blend globally of the whole world. And the 3 single malts who follow the backbone, the 3 malts who are forming the backbone of the Ballantine's malt, of the Ballantine's blend, is Glenburgie, Milton Duff, and Glentochers. And maybe a coincidence or not, I am a big fan, a huge fan of all 3. So Glenbergie is the only distillery of which I buy every cask they offer me without even tasting. So Glenbergie, I buy them all because I simply love Glenbergie. Milton Duff, I believe I already brought out 3 or 4. And Glentochers, this is also the 5th probably. I just love those whiskies. And also if I taste old Ballantine's blends, I love every old Ballantine's I open. So it's a question of taste, I think. Ballantine's produces 4.2 million, so it's quite a big distillery. They have 6 washbacks, 6 stills. Joins DCL, was Distillers Company Limited. Now Diageo in 1925. And Glentochers was mothballed between 1985 and 1992. Also in 2000, they bring out a first single malt, 15 years old. And in 2005, Chivas buys Glentochers. So then they go out of the Ballantine's family and they go to Chivas. Glentochers is also a distillery that produced almost their whole career only blenders whiskies. They've been working for Buchanan's, for Black and White, for Teachers, and now still Ballantine's. Glentochers Distillery from a different view. Warehouses, mash tun, all very clean, all very proper. These are the washbacks, and these are the stills, also in a form of which you wouldn't expect. So the previous one from Ardmore, I said those are stills designed to make peated whiskey, and these are the same stills. So it surprises me a bit that these stills can make a whiskey so elegant and so fruity and so light and so smooth as Glentochers. So because the stills aren't normally designed for that. So guys, don't forget, we're tasting this one after the 2 peaty whiskies. And I really am very curious of getting your opinion about the switch. So was it yes or no a good idea? That's something I would like you to tell me afterwards, after you tasted this one.
Gal, this is number 6?
5, I think. We didn't have 6.
No, but
this is
number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, all right.
This is one beautiful dram, Bert. This is one beautiful dram.
This is the time to say that I've got a birthday 2 months from now. This is very kindly present.
This is well noted, Doron. It's well noted.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
So here, the aromas you get here, it's very fruity. You get vanilla, you get oak.
Yeah, very
nice.
My tasting
notes, there's a difference between oak and wood. Oak is positive, wood is negative. So wood, that's what you get if a whiskey is in a cask for too long, and oak is what you get. It's what you get if the cask is adding to the whiskey to make it even better than you would have it without the oak. So oak is a positive thing for me in my tasting notes. And for me, the oak in here is marvelous. Many sultanas, you get tropical fruits here. You get
lemongrass,
but very elegantly. Very. It's on the background.
Right.
I've got to say that for 24 years that the spirit lay on the keg, not the keg, forget the word. It's very clearly it's still very clearly very color. The color is very natural.
Yeah, but I think this one has been on a fresh bourbon or a second fill bourbon, but the color is surprisingly, for being bourbon, it's darker than many others of those ages I have seen. That's why I think it was a quite active cask and it has had more action than some other space ciders under Astomor's label at the same age. So the cask, it must have been a very active one. What's your observations or your opinions about this one?
I would say just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You made your point that complexity wins.
Everybody agrees?
Complexity wins because it's very complex.
This is very complex indeed.
Very complex.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Got loads of vanilla on the finish. It's
yeah, and the finish is very, very long. Very continuity.
I have been arguing with Eve about this.
So tell us the argument.
Very long, also great finish, Sultana finish.
I got a lot of sugared figs in the.
Right. Sugared figs.
Sugared fig.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Maybe some apricot also.
Yeah, I just thought that dry apricot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The kind that the Israeli called leather.
Leather. Mm-hmm.
Exactly my thought. What
exactly leather?
Honey, how do you call leather in English?
You call it fruit leather, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm tasting it without any water. Would you say water would add something to it or not in this case, Bert?
I wouldn't. You can try it, but I wouldn't do it.
I haven't, but
did anyone try with water?
Not me.
I put 2 drops only, and it's got some open, like you open the window in the middle of the field.
Yeah. Well, 2 drops sometimes don't really go to dilute, but are going to 2 drops can indeed help to open up the aromas and to open up the flavors without losing the punch or without losing the strength of it. I agree on the 2 drops idea. But Glentochers, again, for me, the first bottling I did to Japan was Glentochers. This is Glentochers. I had quite some young ones on Cherrywood, and there's still some Glentochers coming, and I always loved this distillery. It's a Ballantine's malt again. All 3, Milton, Duff, Glentochers, Glenbergie. Remind that no bad surprises there.
The last Glentochers you made was a 10-year-old, a sherry cask, I think, Bert.
Yeah. Did you have that one?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah.
Sold out quite quickly.
Yeah.
So any more impressions on the Glentochers?
I love it. I really.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's quite amazing.
Some delicate, also, you know, like a nail polish remover. Very delicate.
And again, the creaminess in the mouth. Again, the mouthfeel is very, very creamy. And that's something I read many tasting notes, and only very seldom people speak about mouthfeel. But for me, this is something crucial. In my tasting notes, I always start describing the mouth by the mouthfeel. So if it's smooth or peppery, or if it's dry or creamy, and this creaminess in this one, I absolutely love it again. And you'll find it in many of the bottles of Aston Morris, many of the bottlings of Aston Morris, you'll find this creaminess in the mouth, because that's something I think it's really important. Personal taste again. But I also don't like Brussels sprouts. That's also personal taste.
Absolutely, if I may add.
So that's a very, very nice ending to this session, Bert, if I might say. We have another whiskey after we finish, but this is something very different. But This is really, really nice. A nice older whiskey. Good choice of cask.
Well, I hear you still have a sample to talk about after this tasting.
Yeah.
From milk and honey, I think.
1 minute, I lost the video. So where is my video? Okay. It's gone. Okay. Can you hear me?
For me, guys, this is all I had to tell you about the bottlings of Aston Morris. I even prepared a nice wee slide to finish off.
Beth, thank you very much. I personally enjoyed very much to hear all your adventures in the whiskey world from the start to today, and always fun to spend an evening with you.
I know, Yves. I'm looking forward to your next visit in Belgium. You have to visit some cocktail bars again. So I hope, guys, you all enjoyed it. If there's any questions or anything you want to know about Aston Morris, never hesitate to contact me over Facebook or Instagram or whatever, or email or over Eve. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to help you out, or I'll be glad to answer them.
Bert, can I have a really quick question?
Yeah.
Why the frog on the bottle?
Why the frog? Well, some years ago, I had a sleeve to put my bottles in, and my designer had been, I'll stop sharing the screen so I can show you some pictures maybe. My designer has been making that sleeve, and at a certain moment, I said, David, between the window and the downside of the sleeve, to me, it's too empty. Can you put something there? I said, yeah, what? I said, I don't care. You're the designer. Find something. And then he has been putting 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of things. And I didn't like it. And all of a sudden, he was getting angry. He said, you know what? Here, boof. And he put the frog on the sleeve. I said, wow, that's it. I said, that's what we're going to use, the frog. And I absolutely love that one. And then I asked him to design shirts for me. Shirts. So, and he did that. And you'll see on screen, I'll share the screen again. I asked him to design shirts. And as you see, here the frog is coming out of the breast pocket.
Nice.
And in Japan, people loved the frog. So people were crazy about this frog, and they loved it. So that's why I said, okay, let's go on with the frog. And then I was looking for a new label for the bottles. The first labels of the Aston Morris bottles didn't have the frog on them. So they were just the same label, but without a frog. And then in November 2015, I got to Japan for the Tokyo Whiskey Festival. And there my importer had made a banner for putting on my importer had made a banner for putting on the stand. So at first I have to start one stage earlier. Where are you? So I wanted to make a new label for Aston Morris. And I sent 2, 3, 4 designs to my importer, and they didn't answer. So I know if Japanese people don't answer, that's the sign that they don't like it. So I didn't search further. And all of a sudden, in November 2015, I got to Japan for the Tokyo Whiskey Festival. And my designer had made a banner for putting behind my stand. And this was the banner. The banner was looking like this. Can you see it?
Nice.
And I saw the banner, I saw this, I said, wow, I see my new label. And then I put the frog on the label again, And in Japan, they absolutely love this. And that's how the frog came on the label and on the sleeves. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions or any more things that can be explained or that can be
just a quickie, Bert. When are you going to bottle a special chichibu for Israel? Just asking for a friend.
Which one?
A good friend.
First, I think chances are higher of getting a Shizuoka for Israel than getting a Chichibu for Israel.
Never lose hope.
Never lose hope. But I've bottled 3 Chichibus, and 3 times they send me 24 bottles for all my customers.
Mm.
I have to know there's about 40 customers if I'm counting international and Belgium. So that's not nearly enough. And let's say I don't make friends with that. But Chichi was also one of my big loves in Whiskeyland, and I'm still trying to bottle more and to get the cask of which I can get everything to Belgium. But sometimes I think it's easier to get a private conversation with Donald Trump or so, or Joe Biden or whatever.
Trump is not the guy you want to talk to right now.
No, it's just to give an example to get a difficult meeting.
Yeah.
Bert, are you thinking about bottling milk and honey in the future?
I'd be very, very, very happy to be able to taste samples of it and to take a look at it. Because I've been tasting milk and honey with Eve when we were in Leiden, or when we were in, was it Leiden, Eve? Or was it The Hague where we were?
In The Hague.
We've been tasting milk and honey. And
first time we met, The Hague.
I like the spirit and what the guys are doing. So if any of you knows milk and honey, I'd be more than happy to take a look at samples or to take a look at whiskeys, and it might help the both of us maybe.
Consider it done. You'll get samples in the mail very soon.
I'd be very happy with that.
Consider it done. There's a lot of people in this Zoom conversation that will be happy to get you some samples.
I'd be more than happy. I'd be more than happy.
I'm sure it's going to happen.
If you can, the guy who can help me for getting a cask bottle, I send him a bottle for free. That's a promise.
Cool. Another deal. Making deals. We're making deals in the middle of the night. That's good.
Yeah.
What's the time in Israel now for the moment, if I may ask?
No, it's nothing. It's not even 11 yet.
Not even 11 yet.
Yeah, we're going out now to a bar.
It's just 1 hour, one hour ahead of you.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky. The bars in Israel are open. We have no bars.
No, they're not open.
They're closed.
But
we open them. We sit outside like homeless people, and they serve us beer in the streets.
But I think we are all privileged to have very extended home bars, no?
And COVID had nothing to do with it.
Thanks, goodness.
Okay, guys. So I would like to thank you for the attention. I would like to thank you for having participated.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you very much for your time. It was very, very inspiring and very interesting.
Well, it was my pleasure hosting this tasting for you guys. So please enjoy the sample of milk and honey, and I'm looking forward to take a look at milk and honey then.
Thank you.
Chaim, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good night. אוקיי, חברים, ברט הולך לישון, אבל אנחנו עוד לא הולכים לישון. לפני שאנחנו ניפרד, עבור האנשים שהיו בטעימה הקודמת שלנו, אני יודע שיש פה לפחות 2 או 3, אז אם אתם עייפים ובא לכם לא לראות את הפרצוף שלי אחרי 1.5 שעה, אני מבין אתכם, לכו לנוח. מי שרוצה להישאר מוזמן. כמו שאמר ברט, הטעימה השישית שלנו, היא לא וויסקי סקוטי, אלא וויסקי ישראלי. בעצם החבית שלנו בת כמעט 3, רגע תנמיכו כי אני שומע אתכם שם, החבית שלנו כמעט בת 3, מילינו לפני 3 שנים במילק אנד הני, כמעט מוכנה, ואנחנו בשבועיים הקרובים הולכים לבקבק אותה בתור וויסקי, בין 3 וטיפה, ואנחנו נשמח באמת לשתות דרם אחרון ביחד. נשמח לשמוע מכם פידבקים לפני שאנחנו מבקבקים, באמת נשמח לשמוע פידבקים כנים, אם לא אהבתם, תגידו מה לא אהבתם, אם אהבתם תגידו, באמת לא חייבים להגיד רק דברים טובים, כמובן שאנחנו חושבים שהיא טובה, אבל באמת דעתו של כל אחד נחשבת. אז כאמור, הדרמה השישי שלנו הערב, זה הדבר הזה, חבית אקס איילה, יותר נכון אקס ארטבג, וויסקי בן 3 שנים ששכב בחבית שהייתה שייכת לארטבג 10 בגלגול הקודם שלה, מבוקבק בחוזק של 61.6, וקחו את דרמה מספר 6 ובואו נשתה אותו לסיום, ובאמת תגידו מה אתם חושבים.
אם נלך לסיום.
מדובר על וויסקי שלא קבעו לי של מילקן הני, שיושן בחבית אקס ארטבג ל3 שנים. כמעט 3 שנים.
אם נלך לסיום שלוצקי אוהב, בכל הקטע של בננות, יש פה המון בננות מיובשות, המון כאילו אדמה.
אדמה זה טוב, מה שחשוב להבין שבאמת כשהתזקיק יצא מהסטיל הוא היה לחלוטין בלי עשן, בלי אפר, בלי שום רמז לפנולים, והכל הגיע מהחבית.
חד משמעית, מרגישים ברמיזה, לפחות באף, את האישון?
אני מסכים עם הבננות. באף, זה בעיקר מה שאני מרגיש.
באף יש גם, אני חושב, גם אפר, די ברור, לפחות עם אפר, אולי טיפה רמזים למזקל, מי שמכיר, לפחות זה מה שעושה, מה שאני מרגיש טיפה. מה אתה אומר, לוצקי?
בגז. באמת, לא... אין לי כוח 40 דרמים ביום, אבל בגדול זה מרגיש.
טוב, מחר יום חדש.
תקן אותי אם אני טועה, אבל זה נמכר הכל, נכון?
כן, כל מה שהחבית הכילה בעצם נמכר מראש. אם אנחנו נראה שהחבית נתנה יותר בקבוקים מהצפוי בגלל אידוי יותר נמוך, אז אולי יהיו כמה בקבוקים עודפים, ואנחנו נודיע על זה מי שירצה, אבל כרגע הצפי הוא שאנחנו נהיה בפחות או יותר לפי הערכה.
מתי צפי בקבוק שוב?
צפי בקבוק סוף נובמבר.
סוף נובמבר זה טוב, יש לי 2 בקבוקים מחכים שם.
עכשיו אנחנו עובדים על לייבל, שיהיה לייבל, אני מקווה, חמוד, הוא קצת מיוחד, לא ממש דומה ללייבלים של מילקן הני קלאסיים, אבל...
לא. הטעמים האלה, זה קשה להאמין שזה בא רק מהחבית, ממש מרגישים אפר פה.
נכון, מרגישים הרבה מאוד אפר, לפחות...
כן, זה מאוד מורגש. הארטבג מאוד בולט פה. ואני אומר לכם, בתור בן אדם שמזהה ארטבג בתור ספייסייד בטעימה עיוורת קל.
ברור. 80 נקודות.
אני מוכרח להודות שבקושי אולי מרגישים אפר.
לוצקי זה לינקוד. לוצקי זה לינקוד.
לינקוד מהימים אבל שהיו מאשנים אותו ונרגילה.
יהודה, מכבי חיפה זה לא פונקציה עכשיו, אתה יודע, בתור בית"רי אני אומר לך את זה.
מה לגבי הפה? מה אתם אומרים על החוזק של 61.6? ניסינו לבדוק אותו בכמה חוזקים, פחות או יותר כמו שברט הסביר, למרות שלא עשינו ברמה של כל 0.5%, אלא הלכנו על כמה וכמה פרסנטג'ים שונים, החל מחוזק חבית מלא של 64 או משהו כזה, וכלה ב-57, וזה היה החוזק שבעצם לפחות 5 או 6 הסכמנו עליו.
לא חשבנו.
מעניין לדעת מה אתם חושבים, זה חזק מדי.
מאוזן מאוד ומשאיר מקום להתאמה פרסונלית בכיף.
מעולה.
חד משמעית.
מעולה, האף והפה שונים לטעמי לחלוטין אחד מהשני, אבל וויסקי מעולה.
בעיניים בגז.
אתה מרגיש
יותר את
בפה?
המתיקות, ובפה אני אישית מרגיש יותר כאילו באמת את הרמיזה של המליחות, את האפר, את הכבדות של העישון, ארדמור.
מסכים עם דורון, בגדול באף אני הרגשתי את הבננות המיובשות, ובפה זה מרגיש יותר הרבה.
השילוב של האחוז ושל התזקיק ושל התחושה של האפר מהחבית באמת משתלבים יפה מאוד, אני מאוד אהבתי. אני אנסה את זה עוד פעם מחר, שהחך יהיה קצת יותר נקי, בלי מה שטעמנו עד עכשיו, אבל באמת פגז, ממש מאוזן.
בדיוק, תודה זאב שהזכרת, רציתי באמת להגיד למי שלא מזג את הכל, אז באמת מחר זאת הזדמנות על הבוקר שאתם קמים, סתם, אבל על הבוקר אגב זה באמת השעה הכי טובה לטעום וויסקי לכל מי שמצחקק, זה נכון?
97.
לוצקי טועם שעה קודם, הוא קם לי שעה לפני, אבל באמת כשאנחנו רוצים באמת לטעום וויסקי, שהפאנל שלנו באמת חף מטעמים, זה מאוד חד, אז זה באמת בבוקר, זה לא בשביל לשתות כמויות, אלא באמת בשביל לטעום בקטנה, אם באמת אנחנו רוצים, אבל מחר יהיה באמת שונה אחרי שלא תטעמו 5 וויסקי בחוזק חבית אחרים, אז יהיה מעניין. בכל מקרה, מי שיש לו איזו הערה, משהו שרוצה לחלוק איתנו, אז אנחנו נשמח.
לי יש הערה.
לוצקי, מי זה מלך? מי?
תגידו, רותם, אבל לא...
מה זה 97,000 דולר בבנק? רגע, מה זה?
זה הסבתות שלו שזה רק היום.
לא, חשבתי שזה האשראי של סוף החודש.
97 נקודות בטעימה. היום.
מה זה היה היום?
מה זה 17%? מה זה 17% אלכוהול?
מה זה היה? רגע, אז לונגרו?
הלונגרו 17 ההולנדי.
כל הכבוד ללוצקי. אתה רואה שאין להתחיל לשתות ב2 בצהריים.
לוצקי, בחייאת, כמה דרמים זה לקח היום?
חצי שנייה, ניקו. תשאל את רביבוס.
חצי שנייה ו24 דרמים.
חצי שנייה ו24. רגיל, זה לא קשור.
בוא אני אראה לך את השעה. הלכתי, בדקתי את כל הלונגרו בבית כדי לוודא.
לך תעיר את אשתך, אני בטוח שתתרשם.
לוצקי, אתה בנית על 70, אתה רואה? אתה פסימיסט.
יאללה.
רגע, איזה מקום עלית?
מה, אני עוד לא בדקתי. האמת שסתם טעיתי בו, כי הוא היה 49.7, כתבתי 49.7 ולא 49.4, אבל...
למי שלא יודע, יש כרגע מתנהלת תחרות טעימה עיוורת מארגן חבר הולנדי שלנו.
קוראים לזה טעימה עיוורת, כי אנשים כמו לוצקי שותים 17 דרמים בשעה כדי לראות מה זה, ואז הם נהיים עיוורים.
בדיוק. אז המטרה היא בעצם לזהות, כמה ימים זה? 14 או 17 ימים? כמה זה עכשיו אצל נילס? 14 ימים ויום אחרי יום של טעימה, של וויסקי שאתה לא יודע מה הוא צריך לנחש אזור, גיל, אחוז אלכוהולי, מזקקה וכולי, ולפי זה מקבלים ניקוד, מאוד מאוד קשה, באמת, עשינו כזאת טעימה לפני 2 או 3, שזה מאוד מאוד קשוח, אבל זה מלמד אותך המון, ובעיקר מלמד אותך שאין לך מושג מהחיים שלך בדרך כלל.
זה הדבר הכי כיפי.
26.
מי זה עלה פה לפלייאוף העליון? מה זה? זה פלייאוף העליון?
מה זה מרכז?
לוצקי, אני יודע שאתה אוהד חיפה, אז אתה לא מכיר. פלייאוף עליון, זה שאתה כאילו...
זה הגרבג' טיים, אחי. דבר איתי במרקו.
חברים, אני רוצה להזכיר לכולכם שקיבלתם היום קוד הנחה למוצרים שטעמתם, פלוס עוד מוצרים של אסטה. זה קוד שלנו, הוא לא קיים בחוץ, זה קוד של מי שהיה היום בזה. בטעימה. הרבה אנשים כבר רכשו, הכמויות הן מוגבלות. תשתדלו ליהנות מזה, כאילו, זה דברים שלא חוזרים, כמו שאתם יודעים. כמו שאתם יודעים, מפיקים לא רוצים את דברים.
הנאה זה עניין יחסי, אתה יודע.
איפה מה?
איפה
הנאה זה...
הקוד, איפה?
היא ושי עכשיו, אם בא לכם לשים בצ'אט את הלינק לאתר ואת הקוד עוד פעם, כדי שכולם יוכלו ליהנות.
הם שמו בתחילת הערב, פשוט לגלול למעלה.
הנה, הקוד הוא מוריס 10, עם M גדול, ואני אשים את זה עוד פעם בצ'אט עכשיו. אני שם את זה, רגע.
שים גם את הלינק.
הנה, כולם עכשיו רואים את הלינק ואת הקוד.
איסוף עצמי שלהם. מאיפה?
הכל בסדר, איב מטייל, שי מטייל, הכל בסדר, אחי.
איסוף עצמי זה משכונת מצוקה.
הכל בסדר.
איב, נראה לי בקרוב אנחנו נפגשים בתחנת אוטובוס מתחת לבית, עוד פעם עם שני גוונקירים.
למה, גם אותך מגרשים מהבית? לא הבנתי.
לא, זה במקום הקבוע שלנו ביחד, שאנחנו נפגשים לשתות ביחד דרם צהריים.
דרם צהריים, בסדר, כן.
כן, זה הכי מציק לראות אותו נכנס עם הרכב בתוך השכונה שלי, כולם מסתכלים כזה במי הגיע לפה לבקר.
איפה אתה גר, להב?
אני בראשון, באזור הלא טוב, במרגולים.
אזור לא טוב.
יש אזור טוב בראשון? פה.
יש אזור יותר טוב. טוב בים, ואני במרחק של קילומטרים רבים ממנו.
עזוב, בים יש חול, זה לא כיף.
בסדר, בוא נגיד את זה ככה, אני מתקרב ללוצקי ואני אהיה באזור יותר גרוע ממך, אז הכל בסדר.
יאללה חברים, אז באמת תודה רבה לכולם, תודה רבה לאיב ולשי, שבאמת הביאו לנו את הוויסקי הזה לארץ. תודה
שבוע הבא הארד בראדרס. מי שיהיה איתנו שבוע הבא הארד בראדרס, יש לכם הרבה דברים לצפות, דברים מהממים. הולכת להיות טעימה ממש 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 כיפית.
מי שנרשם יש, ומי שלא נרשם, אז אין מה לעשות, אין את המקומות.
אני כבר לא זוכר.
איזה בקבוק.
אני רשום לאחרונוס.
פה יש את האולד פלטני 14, שתקשיבו, הזיה.
הוא מעולה, הוא פשוט מעולה.
מה אתה אומר יש?
אין כבר.
יש בקבוקים לקנות, ניסים, אין מקום בטעימה, זה מה שאנחנו.
אין מקום בטעימה, גם אין
גם אין בקבוקים. קיצור, היה טוב, אבל... תודה רבה לכולכם, באמת...
להיות ראשונים זה מחייב, כמו שאומרים.
מחייב וגם יקר.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה לכולם, תודה רבה שהשתתפתם באמת. נתראה בקרוב, חברים.
עוד שבוע.
אני מקווה זוכרים מה שהוא אמר על הבקבוקים, על החביות של קאולילה. כן? לכל אלה שהיו איתי באי.
מה עם החביות של קאולילה?
מה אמר ברט על החביות של קאולילה?
אין רע.
אין רע. הרבה יותר קשה למצוא רע מאשר למצוא טוב. אין רע. פרנס, אתה מסכים איתי, אני רואה לפי החיוך.
בטח, אתה לא משנה מה יביאו לך כל לילה.
יהודה, מה קורה איתך? היום אתה שקט, יהודה, לא שומעים אותך.
אסור לי לדבר, אשתי אמרה שהיום אני צריך להיות בשקט.
אסור לך לשתות, אסור לך לדבר, מה מותר?
רגע, מי שרכש את טעימת הארד בראדרס, אנחנו נכניס הפתעה באחת הערכות, באופן אקראי. אחרי הארד בראדרס, נכון.
אנחנו מארגנים כמה טעימות של רום, חבר'ה, אם אתם כבר עדיין נשארתם כאן, אנחנו מארגנים טעימות של רום, יהיו לנו 2 טעימות של רום ברצף בשבועות הקרובים.
רגע, זה מתחיל להיות מעניין.
כן, רומים מדליקים של יבואנים חדשים, יהיה לנו טעימה של וואי, אני קשה לי עם המילה הזאת, קמפניז דס אינדס, שזה יבוא חדש של...
תגיד את זה 10 פעמים.
לא, לכל 2.
האמת היא שעד לפני שבוע הייתי בטוח שרום זה מגעיל, ואז קפצתי לענות לטעמים, ואושר אמר לי, תשמע, אתה חייב לשתות פה איזה שיט מ-2007, ופתאום שאני הייתי פחדתי בקבוק אחר כך, אני ואל אמרנו וואי.
טעמת את הפוסקר, רן. בקיצור, אז אנחנו עושים טעימה של הקמפניז דס אינדס, זה יהיה הטעימה של סוף החודש, אנחנו נפרסם אותה לקראת הסוף שבוע הזה, ומיד אחריה אנחנו עושים טעימה בלעדית של פורסקוור, שהגיעו לארץ, שזה באמת
אני לא יודעת שזה כל כך טעים.
זה מאוד טעים, זה עולם שלם. זה עולם שלם, תשאלו את לוצקי, זה כבר הפך להיות חצי מהתקציב שלו בחודש.
זה פתיחת תקציב.
זה כמו תקינה קטנה באפריקה.
יש למה לצפות. עכשיו, אנחנו בקרוב, מה זה בקרוב? מהטעימה של הרום הראשונה, אנחנו מתחילים להגריל. כל מי שיקנה ערכת טעימה, בעצם בגדול נכנס לסוג של הגרלה. באחד מהטעימות, באחד מהערכות שאתם תקבלו הביתה, אתם תקבלו פתק שבעצם אומר שזכיתם בבקבוק. בן אדם אחד מהטעימה יזכה בבקבוק. אז מעכשיו...
גל, יש טעם לפרוץ למערכת או שאין טעם?
אתה יכול לפרוץ, אבל אני זה שעושה את הבקבוקים, או גל, אנחנו דרך השיכורים שאנחנו מבקבקים.
אתה יכול לפרוץ,
הסיכוי שזה יעזור לך הוא
תמונות מחשידות, אם זה מה שאתה מחפש.
אבל זה חלק מהעניין פה, היבואנים פה מאוד שמחים לתת לנו את הצ'ופר הזה, שנוכל להעביר אותו אליכם. אז מעכשיו בעצם כל טעימה שתצא, יהיה בה אופציה של 1-24 או 1-48, לזכות בבקבוק על הדרך.
אני אף פעם לא זוכה בכלום, אז זה לא משנה.
בסדר, עזוב, נו. אנשים זוכים בקורונה, אתה יודע.
זה סיכוי יותר גבוה.
אני כבר זכיתי, כי אני גם בפתח תקווה, גל.
זכית.
שמע, בתור יליד פתח תקווה, אני יודע במה זכית, אז זה אשריך.
יאללה חברים.
כל הטוב הזה מגיע לך. יאללה חברים, לילה טוב.
תודה רבה.
ביי ביי.
לילה טוב, תודה שהייתם.
לילה טוב.